Hey everybody, it's the Crim Reaper here. John Cena, in my opinion, should absolutely turn babyface at SummerSlam. And matter of fact, I think there's a good chance that he does. And I think this, in my opinion, this is how you should book Cena in his last few months. I think he should turn babyface at SummerSlam, and potentially by it being a double turn with him and Cody. Like, potentially that happens. Or you can just have Seth Rollins cash in on Cena and, he turns babyface from that. Now, I think it would be a good story. It's not the most complex story in the world, but I think it would be a good story if Cena ends his career by chasing the title and becoming, the Super Cena, the babyface that we all know and love again. And he's doing that right now. You're seeing them gradually teasing his face turn. And I think it should be kind of a story like he's putting away the cheap shots, because ultimately he's been doing all that because it's presented to us that he's washed. Like, before this title reign, he hadn't won a match in 6 years. Like, he hasn't won a match clean in years. And you can kind of tell a story of him gradually, for these last few months, he's turning back the clock. He's getting back to his prime again. And he's redeeming himself from all he's been doing in these matches, like all the cheap shots, all the shortcuts, and he's returning back to what the Cena that we love. And you can have him. I think it would be cool if he accomplishes his goal of being the last real champion. Like, he actually retires as the last real champion, but he does it, as the Cena we love. And I think that would be a good way to end his story. When before it looked bleak and he was going to do it, as the heel, villain Cena. So I think that would be a good way to end his career, and it would be a monumental moment. Now, secondly, I think he should retire as the last real champion to sort of reset things and add value to the World Heavyweight Championship. I think, or they could even establish or hold a tournament for a new title. But I think Cena should retire with the WWE Championship because it would be a monumental moment, and I think it would actually, in a sense, reset the WWE. And Cena's a legend. Like, I'm biased personally. He's my favorite wrestler of all time. So I'm biased on that front. But I definitely think he deserves to retire with the WWE Championship. There's a few you could argue, like, there's legends, like, he's not the only one ever that deserves to do it, but he's a star of his caliber, the career he's had, like the legend that he is. He definitely deserves that, in my opinion. So that's how I would book Cena's last run. And with Cody, there's a lot of moving pieces here. I'm not sure what you would do with Cody. You can do the double turn. I'm not against that either. I'm not against the double turn of him and Cody. And you have it, switched that way. Cena has to become the guy, again, the same story I laid out before. He's slowly turning back to that good guy who fights through all the odds and everything. And you sort of saw a teaser of that at Night of Champions. So he was still presented as the heel, but in a sense in that match, he kind of defied all the odds because he had to deal with Seth Rollins cash in. He had to fight off Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. So in a sense, you saw shades of like Super Cena and him defying the odds in that match. So you're just seeing it like little by little. But I haven't enjoyed WWE that much recently, but I am, a bit excited for SummerSlam just because of that. And I'm interested what happens with Orton, what happens with Cody, and just what happens in this last bit of Cena's run. So yeah, in my opinion, he should, and I think he will turn babyface at SummerSlam. And my man Commentator Havoc agrees with me too. Commentator Havoc, shout out to my boy. Like, he said it first, and that's a smart man right there. For more of the Crimson Brothers, follow the Crimson Wrestling Federation today. I'm Commentator Havoc, the voice of the Crimson Wrestling Federation. And you can see the calls I've made in the Crimson Wrestling Federation, in the comic Crimson Wrestling Game, Story of Malice, in the description below.